2025, and stop me if you've heard this before, was yet another bad year for the video game industry. Massive layoffs barely even register as noteworthy anymore, and the rise of LLM generative technology during development has now become a capital P problem. Even wildly popular and highly acclaimed titles such as Expedition 33 have been mired in controversy due to the usage of this earth-killing, creatively bankrupt and vile generative tech. It's become hard, if not entirely impossible, to only pay attention to games that swear off from using it. Speaking of games I won't be giving attention to, there are still some games I'd love to get to, but as long as Microsoft remains on the BDS boycott list, I will not even consider them. Of course, I have been actually playing games. My year started out great, then almost tapered off. Early on, I played some amazing titles, a few from 2024, others from 2025. Then Nintendo released their latest console, a few major first-party titles, and Hades 2 released, which is where my year got weird. I spent a lot of time in games I didn't love. I completed Mario Kart World, I completed Donkey Kong Bonanza before the DLC, I spent over 100 hours completing the number 10 entry on this list, and I did all of that instead of playing Citizen Sleeper 2, a game that I can almost guarantee will be on my top 10 list next year, or any of the dozens of other great indie games that I'm sure I would have loved. Even Hades 2, my first honorable mention from last year's list, isn't on this year's. Despite it being one of my most anticipated games, I haven't even put 10 hours into it. For whatever reason, it hasn't drawn me in. Overall, I put time into 26 video games in 2025. A slightly different ranked list of each can be found on my backlogged account, linked in the description, but that's including replays. Like Super Mario World and Portal are going to easily outrank most other games. So the following is a list of my top 10 recent games that I played in 2025. Recent being from 2024 or 2025. And even though the middle portion of my gaming year was weaker than I'd have liked, I'm still really happy with the following. And I managed to alleviate my biggest personal grievance from last year's list, the overrepresentation of large AAA games. So without further ado, please enjoy my top 10 games, Oops All Indies edition. Mostly. While outlining my upcoming review for Dogu Bomb's Blue Prince, I continually found myself so cold on this game that I had to consciously remind myself of all the moments that I adored. There is so much to love in Blue Prince, from the beautifully crafted environments, to the haunting soundtrack, to the hand-drawn art aesthetics, and especially to the superb puzzle design. But the random elements woven into the core gameplay loop left me more frustrated than anything, especially after reaching the first set of credits. Attempting to solve any of the later puzzles was an exercise in futility, constantly pulling the wrong rooms over and over until finally everything works out in just the correct way to move on to the second step of a 10-part puzzle was a loop of sheer pain. But said 10-part puzzle still feels incredible to finally solve, and the game is chock full of puzzles. I also do wish I found the story at all interesting. Again, I will have much more to say in an upcoming review, which will be linked in the description when it's completed, but for now, Blue Prince remains a really good, really frustrating number 10 that I spent way too much time completing. So at some point fairly recently, a couple years ago maybe, my sister texted me a link to the most recent entry in a long-running independent animated YouTube series. I was utterly engrossed. It was clearly heavily inspired by 90s video games. The animation was beautiful and esoteric, always consisting of a cross between low polygonal 3D models and almost Zelda CDI type 2D animations. I at no point had any idea what was actually going on. She then walked me through the rest of the series in reverse chronological order. My sister's just like that sometimes. Which revealed to me that the utter bafflement I felt during the most recent episode was wholly intended. None of the episodes felt like a part of a cohesive narrative. Each exists in a surreal, Dadaistic, ephemeral position relative to one another, the only consistence being the main character, Ina, and some of the supporting cast. And the team behind the cartoon has been working on a game, Ina Dream Barbecue, the first chapter of which released in 2025. And it's great. It takes all the best parts from the web series and makes them interactable. Ina, or Ina, I feel like they keep pronouncing her name differently. Anyway, she's looking to kill her boss, so obviously she needs to go through this portal to find a series of strange objects, speaking to even stranger characters, to get to the Greek-speaking, I think she was a genie, up in the bathroom, to turn off the smoke. This all makes sense. The animation is wonderful throughout, the game looks amazing, the art style is eclectic yet entirely cohesive, the multilingual voice acting is all excellent, and it's easily the strangest game on this list, which I mean as complimentary as possible. Other than the one annoying trophy to cross the river to the bathroom without using the body, yeah, it was an utter joy to complete. Milking each cutscene from the game was worth it for each of the bespoke animations and lines. The only reason it's so low on this list is due to its incomplete nature. Chapter 5 is dense, but overall quite short. Ignore that I said this in a few entries, but if the latest Horses drama has inspired you to play weirder games, I cannot give a heartier recommendation to Ina Dream Barbecue. Heck, it's free! Hey, remember earlier when I said that this list would consist of 2024 and 2025 games? Look, this game technically still counts. The base game released in 2023, but the latest DLC that released in 2025 basically doubled the game, so I'm counting it. And I'm counting it because I really want to recommend Endless Monday, Dreams and Deadlines and Overtime, a visual novel by H.C. Nunn, however you're supposed to pronounce that, featuring Penny, fail artist struggling her way through the corporate life as she does her best to hit her deadlines the final weekend before they're due. During these 2 fruitful weekends, she talks with Miss Whiskey, her now manager, former college senior, that she is hopelessly in love with, her air fryer obsessed friend and former coworker Sky, her evil boss Blythe, her cruel coworker Hannah, her imaginary friend Tiger-chan, and her potentially hallucinated alien friend. Each character is lovingly hand-drawn, brilliantly written, and the soundtrack is an ever-present groove. The story is oftentimes incredibly funny, Penny's misadventures are wild, and both the core messages H.C. Nunn wrote about mean so much to me. When I played, I was reaching peak frustration with my own dead-end office job, and seeing Penny struggle in this setting was deeply relatable. Sky's storyline especially was touching. Sky is someone who is so fed up with her programming job, she quit to pursue her now failing YouTube career. Which, pretty easy to map myself onto that. Both Penny and Sky end in very good spots by the end of the Overtime chapter, and I can only dream that I'm able to find such a happy ending for myself. The game's other key topic is the proliferation of LLM-generated technology, in-game personified as Xenobot, and how utterly devoid of meaning it all is. While the representation is goofy, I wholeheartedly agree with the message being we should beat LLM tech to death with hammers. I've enjoyed H.C. Nunn as an artist for a while now. I'm very glad I made the time to play Endless Monday, getting every achievement was pleasant, and I am very excited for Game 2. And as Tiger-chan so eloquently puts it, work is da poop. Hey, remember earlier when I put mostly at the end of Oops All Indies? well, I guess it's technically possible to consider Nintendo an independent game studio, but like, come on now. Of course, which of the two Nintendo games I alluded to earlier will be here? Obviously, the one that most people liked less, of course. Mario Kart World, a game I spent over 95 hours in, is nowhere near the best Mario Kart game, but I had a blast with it. The parkouring was fun, the course design is top tier across the board, and the soundtrack might be the best soundtrack ever put in a video game. Sure, the long stretches might be boring, and there is obviously not enough to do in free roam, but it was always a chill time listening to great music. I have a network television hours worth of Mario Kart World critique linked in the description, so please check that out for my full thoughts. But I had a good time with Mario Kart World. It's fun. Sometimes I play a game exclusively for the gameplay. The music was good, but not memorable. The art style was sharp, but not especially unique or gripping. The story was unimportant to non-existent. But the gameplay of RX Pepper Grinder, ooh boy, that was sweet. The game features a girl named Pepper, who gets accosted by some pirates. Her treasure stolen. She then finds a grinder, which lets her swim through dirt and enemies alike. The game is a pure roller coaster, through a series of levels, swimming through dirt, obliterating baddies, hookshotting around targets, and finding all the treasure your heart can desire. The motion in this game is so fluid. Once I got the hang of it, it felt transcendent traversing through each level. The bosses are probably the weakest element. Some of them are tougher or more convoluted than they should have been, but the levels more than make up for it. Playing through to find all the collectibles was good, zooming through to get the speedruns was exciting. Pepper Grinder is pure and innovative platforming fun. Halfway through my top 10, this next game came out much more recently than any other entry. As such, I'm not even entirely sure it's in the right spot. Given more time to digest, I could see it traveling up to number 3 or 4, but even getting to 5 has been a certain achievement. As of writing, I've only had the game for 2 weeks. In that time, I've played over 16 hours, and let me tell you, D-Cell Games' Unbeatable is a great rhythm game. I'll have much more to say about Unbeatable in a future review, which will be linked in the description when we get there, but the game is essentially 2 games in one. The story mode is a somewhat messy but incredibly heartfelt adventure of 2 girls, Beat and Quaver, as they try to form a band in a world where music is illegal. The game involves talking to witty characters throughout a few different locales, interspersed with multiple different types of rhythm games. The dialogue is very online, which I find appealing, and each variation of rhythm is surprisingly good, although naturally the one featured in the arcade mode is the most polished. While the plot gets messy towards the end, the narrative is so incredibly touching it almost completely makes up for it. What finishes making up for it is 1, the hand-drawn art and animations are outstanding, and 2, it has one of the best soundtracks ever put in a video game. Give me a year to fully decide if I think Unbeatable's or Mario Kart World's soundtrack is better. They both lean heavily into my 2 favorite genres, rock and jazz respectively, but every song in Unbeatable, especially the white label songs, are rocking to the nth degree, which complements how refined the arcade mode is. Press one button to attack up, another to attack down. But the different types of enemies, the varied beat charts, the hectic ways the chart moves back and forth between the left and right side of the screen, it is all so engrossing. This is the game on this list that I've completed the least, and I can't wait to sink more time into it. I'm going to have a blast playing through each song, going for full combos on harder and harder difficulties, and replaying the story to find the last few achievements. And, as always, a cab. Hey, remember earlier when I said that Ina was so low on the list due to it not being completed? Well, Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 are also incomplete, but they're here at number 4 anyway. Deltarune good. Every time a new chapter releases, I wind up replaying the entire game again. 2025 was no exception. This time I played it on the new PS5 port. And Deltarune's still so good. Soundtrack, unrivaled. Gameplay, better than Undertale. Writing, gripping. Characters, of all time. I still think Queen from Chapter 2 is my favorite major NPC from the game, but Tenna is quite good, the Zelda-esque sequences in Chapter 3 were fantastic, and all of Chapter 4 was really special. Everything involving Susie and that old man is excellent character building. I cannot wait to see how Chris's whole deal will culminate. I hope Susie and Noelle have a great date. Truly, it's wild to imagine this game is only halfway complete. I really only have 2 complaints. 1, I like Chapter 1 and 2's Rude Buster better than 3 and 4's, and 2, it is, in fact, only halfway complete. Luckily, Chapter 5 is supposedly dropping in 2026, so I've got that to look forward to. When it does drop, I do need to go back and beat Chapter 3's optional boss, which then leads me to needing to redo all of Chapter 4, but I'll probably need the refresher by the time 5 winds up dropping. Either way, it's all been so great so far, and I don't see Toby Fox or the rest of the team dropping the ball now. This entry comes with a caveat. I did receive an early review code for this game from the publisher, and because of that, you can watch both my first couple hours as well as a nearly hour-long review analysis of the Ivy Road game Wanderstop. Both videos are linked in the description. It was such a beautiful experience taking the reins of Alta and getting to act through her gradual acceptance that taking a break isn't the end of the world, and watching her learn to socialize, accept help from others, and to learn to love doing something other than fighting. The steady routines of the game quickly become familiar, almost rote, yet deeply calming. I was never annoyed swiveling around the giant tea machine because the process of doing so was visually interesting. I was never annoyed at farming because the plants are unique and fantastical. I was never annoyed at running around because the grove and tea shop Alta finds herself in are impossibly vibrant, incredibly gorgeous. And the rewards for drinking tea are incredibly well-delivered monologues. Wanderstop is a beautiful game, tells a beautiful story, and the Platinum Trophy popped literally by itself. It's easily the best game from 2025 I've played so far. That's right, you heard me right. Wanderstop is my favorite game that released in 2025. These next 2 entries, unsurprisingly, are both smaller, narrative-focused games developed by small studios that released in 2024, and both absolutely blew my mind with what they managed to achieve. I played them both back to back very early on in the year, in the same order they appear on this list. This first one even has a Let's Play I recorded that may or may not ever see the light of day. Which is to say, I've had almost a year to have developer Wrong Organ's mouth-washing marinate in my subconscious. Every couple of weeks I still find myself thinking about it. How it plays with narrative mechanisms like unreliable narrators and non-chronological storytelling. How it explores concepts of capitalism, working to survive, throwing friends under the bus. I didn't even pick up on it during my initial playthrough. But the line, "Why do you think Pony Express put a lock on the medical room door, but not in the sleeping quarters?" haunts me. There are so many beautiful moments, so many ways things could have gone better, so many things that in hindsight take on the vilest of connotations. The skill level it took to deliver this story makes me entirely forgive that awful scaly pot in the middle that I literally winced through. Mouthwashing is an unbelievable feat. A 2-hour game that takes the interactivity of games seriously and conjoins them with story mechanisms usually held for other mediums like books or film. If you have avoided it so far, I cannot recommend it enough. So then, imagine I've just played one of the best narrative gaming experiences I've ever had, then immediately followed it up with Sunset Visitors 1000 Times Resist. Both very different games, both fascinating explorations in how to tell an interactive narrative. 1000 Times Resist differs itself by telling its story mostly through a series of artistically beautiful vignettes. The COVID-inspired first chapter is deeply unsettling. The storybook-esque sequence was a fascinating choice. The multiple times the story was twisted ever so slightly on its head felt earned. What really touched me was the multiple themes it delved into. COVID, as I mentioned, but systematic abuse winds up being one of the game's main touchpoints. The vignettes show a girl so ashamed of her heritage that she lashes out at a friend. It shows what police brutality does to a populace. It shows what a false religious order can condition one into doing. It shows what it takes to stand up to a fascist takeover, what will happen if they're allowed to succeed, and it lands this plane of abuse and fighting and self-sacrifice with immense aptitude. And wouldn't you believe it, it also utilizes unreliable narrators and non-chronological storytelling. Must have been something in the water in 2024. 1000 Times Resist is a game I'll be thinking about for a very long time. A beautiful experience, Hecky Grace. Thank you so much for watching. What have been your favorite games for 2025? Let me know in the comments or tell me what you thought of my own list here. Check out all the videos I mentioned, links are in the description. Rate or subscribe if you're feeling like it. I'm at Mario8 on my social medias. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.